Well, hey, friends, and welcome back to Equipped for Worship. I'm your host, Chuck Harris, and whether you're driving to work, cleaning up after Wednesday night dinner, or sneaking in a few moments of peace before Sunday rolls around again, I'm so glad you're here. We're now in episode 9 of season 2, and if you've been with us for a while, you know that each week we try to dig a little deeper into what it means to faithfully serve as worship leaders and worship pastors, especially in the small church, often bivocational, local church world. The kind of churches where the organ still works, most of the time, and the kids run down the aisles after the service, and your stage team might be whoever showed up on time that day. Sound familiar? Well, last week we had an honest and rich conversation with Jason Bubba Stewart from the Kentucky Baptist Convention about greener pastures syndrome, the pull to compare our ministries and feel like we're always missing out. If you haven't heard that episode yet, I highly recommend you go back and give it a listen. It'll help you plant your feet firmly where God has you, with joy. But today, we're asking a foundational question, one I think most churches overlook. What is worship? Because if we think worship is just the 3 to 4 songs we sing before the sermon, well, friends, we're missing the point. Today's episode is called Worship Isn't Just the Music, Teaching Your Church a Bigger Vision. Well, let's pour a cup of coffee, open our Bibles and our hearts, and dive right in. Let's start where we always should, with the Word. Romans 12:1, a verse that we've been talking about since episode 1 of this season, says this: "Therefore, brothers and sisters, in view of the mercies of God, I urge you to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true worship." Let that sink in for a moment. Paul doesn't say worship is singing. He says worship is presenting your whole self, your body, your time, your life as a sacrifice to God. Worship is about surrender. It's about living a life that points to Jesus. Yes, music is a part of that, but it's not the whole story. If your church thinks worship equals music, then they're likely missing out on 90% of what God calls them to. And as worship leaders, we have to help them see a bigger, fuller vision of worship. So here's the question. What are we doing? What are we doing actively to shape that understanding in our congregations? Because if we don't teach them, the culture will. And the culture teaches that worship is emotional, that it's experience-based, and that it's always about me. But Scripture teaches the opposite. Worship is a response to who God is. It's spirit-led and truth-filled. It's reverent. It's joyful. It's costly. It's daily. So, how did we get to the point where worship equals music in most people's minds? Well, honestly, some of it is on us. We've spent years calling the music portion of the service worship, and the rest the message. We've structured our language around it. Even our planning software reflects this. Worship set, worship leader, worship songs. But nowhere in the Bible is worship limited to singing. Singing is part of worship, yes, but so is prayer, so is giving, reading scripture, baptism, communion, confession, preaching, and yes, even silence. When we define worship too narrowly, we rob people of all the other ways God has given them to connect with Him. And in some churches, music has even become a performance. Folks, that's dangerous. When people come into church expecting to be entertained instead of engaged, we've lost something. Let's talk about what a bigger vision of worship actually looks like in a church setting. And we're going to start where we should always start in Scripture. So here's a few biblical snapshots. Isaiah chapter 6. Here, Isaiah is overwhelmed by God's holiness. Isaiah confesses his sin, and then God purifies him, and then He sends him. That's worship. Acts chapter 2, verse 42, the early church devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to prayer. That's worship. A verse we're all very familiar with, Colossians 3:16. Let the word of Christ dwell richly among you, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. That's worship too, but notice it's singing rooted in the word. So as leaders, let's teach our churches that, number one, giving is worship because it reflects trust and gratitude. Number two, prayer is worship because it shows dependence and adoration. Number three, listening to the sermon with open hearts is worship. It's not a break from the music, it's another encounter with God. And number four, serving is worship. Holding babies in the nursery, greeting at the door, handing out bulletins. Yes, that is worship. The more we frame everything as an opportunity to honor God, the more our churches will grow into the worshipers God is looking for. Not just Sunday singers, but daily sacrificers. John 4:23 and 24, again, another verse that's well known. But an hour is coming and is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Yes, the Father wants such people to worship Him. Folks, let's teach that vision. All right, this is where it gets practical. If you want to shift your church's understanding of worship, you have to teach it, not just assume it. So let's look at some ways how to do this. Number one, preach it. If your pastor is on board, encourage them to do a sermon series or a standalone message on worship, not music, worship. Number two, model it. When you lead, talk about how singing is just one part of worship. Use scripture in your transitions. Remind people that what happens after the last note matters just as much as when we're singing those notes or even before those notes. Number three, expand your language. Maybe instead of calling it worship time, call it our time to respond to God. Instead of worship team, call it the music team or response leaders. Number four, highlight other worship moments. Take time to celebrate the offering, the Lord's Supper, the message, baptism. Take time to celebrate all those as worship. Number five, teach your team. Your band, your vocalists, your tech team need to know this too. Worship doesn't stop when rehearsal ends. And number six, lead in everyday life. Take time to share stories from your own life about worshiping in the mundane, washing dishes with a heart of gratitude, praying during your commute, journaling your prayers. We're not trying to take away from music. We're just trying to elevate everything else. Friend, I want to leave you with this. Worship is not the warm-up. It's not just the music. It's the life. Again, Romans 12:1 reminds us, present your bodies as a living sacrifice. This is your true worship. That means how we treat our families, how we respond to hardship, how we serve behind the scenes. It all matters. Friend, you are leading your church in worship, not just with your voice, but with your life. Don't underestimate your influence. If you faithfully cast a bigger vision for worship, not just with your words, but with your walk, your church will catch it. Slowly, patiently, but it will take root. Friend, I'm praying for you this week, that you would encounter God in the quiet moments, in the in-between, and in the seemingly ordinary places. I'm praying that your church would see worship not just as something they attend, but something they live. And hey, if this episode encouraged you, I'd love to hear from you. You can always reach out at equippedforworship@gmail.com. Maybe you've got a story to share, a topic you want covered, or just need someone to pray with you. This podcast exists to serve you in the trenches of local church worship ministry. Now, next week, we're going to take this conversation one step further with episode 10, Worshiping in Spirit and in Truth, leading from the inside out. We're going to talk about what it really means to lead worship that's both theologically sound and deeply heartfelt. Because let's be honest, it's easy to get caught up in technique, in planning, or the pressure to perform. But Jesus said the Father is seeking true worshipers, those who worship Him in spirit and in truth. And that's what we're after. Until then, stay faithful. Stay grounded in the Word, and keep helping your church see the beauty and the weight of true worship. Until next time.